Yo, what's going on guys? HyperX here. Welcome back to another video for Elden Ring and another episode of things you probably don't know or might not know, or maybe you do and you can share some more stuff that people don't know in the comments down below. You guys seem to have really enjoyed the past couple of episodes. I super appreciate the support on both of those. If you guys have missed any of them and you want to find out some of the secrets or the hidden gameplay mechanics, then I will link both of those down below. But today we are continuing that. Again, you guys have submitted some fantastic points, so we have gone digging to showcase some of the lesser known gameplay mechanics, secrets, mysteries, things like that. So if you guys do enjoy this, a like would be super appreciated. As always, if you have more things you think people should know about, definitely let us know in the comments down below. If there are enough of them, we may well do another episode, but for the time being, let's get started. This first one comes from JustAGuy1386. This is actually a follow-on from the last episode. You guys might remember there was of course a comment whereby saying if you use the erudition gesture with one of these helmets, the helmet lights up. And I made the comment that I thought it was kind of cool, but I thought it was, seemingly a just fun interaction. However, JustAGuy said there is actually a use for this. There is a specific puzzle that requires that you use this helmet and that gesture to open the door. There are in fact two towers, which I have then since gone and discovered. If you go over to the northeastern part of Leonia and you go over to here, this is one of the two towers. This is the converted fringe tower, and if you go here wearing this helmet and you perform that gesture, once your helmet lights up, it will then actually unlock that blocked doorway, and that is actually how you get through to this tower. Of course, going up, you will then fight an enemy, climb a lift, and that will actually get you to the point where you can unlock two rather cool spells. Meanwhile, if you then go to the southwest part of Leonia and you go over to here, this is the other tower you want to turn your attention to. This is the converted tower, and again, same principle. If you perform that action, what would happen now is a spirit ladder will appear behind the statue, and you can then of course climb up and you can then go to the top and get the item. So while the interaction between that emote and of course that helmet is pretty cool, it does actually have a use. This next one comes from YouTube Voice. I really like this one. I like these sort of interactions where they actually pay close attention to, more so like the armor and things that are actually on your character. And they said that if you roll in Scarlet rock puddles, your clothes will actually get soaked and the rock meter will continue to rise. So of course, first things first, you can see if you walk into it normally, you walk out, it goes down. Meanwhile, if you roll in it, you can of course see that sort of murky, muddy color on it. And as the comment says, it will still continue to build. However, rather interestingly, they then said if you use the craftable soap item, that allows you to cleanse your clothes, and it's also much cheaper than the boluses. So basically, if you stanky, make sure you have a shower and wash yourself, because then not only do you not get the scarlet rot, it will of course go down, it's also cheaper, but that is a pretty cool interaction. I just like the fact that if you roll in it, it actually kind of like considers that it is going to be on your clothes, so it does actually accumulate that build up. So that is a pretty nice subtle thing. Following on from there, a comment from Pelagius, I believe that's how you pronounce it. This one, he said, is probably too obvious, but he finds it strange how the beast repellent torch is never mentioned. Honestly, some of the things I think in this game, they may seem obvious, but I've never heard of this before, and this is actually really, really cool. The beast repellent torch, you can buy this from the merchant near Caelid Tower, will pacify all mammal-type enemies. Things like the tyrannodogs, the wolves, the rats. Apparently it doesn't work on bats, but other things like that. And this is actually super cool. You can see that simply by holding it, the dog will still target you, still walk around, but it will not actually attack you. The second you put it away, it will then go hostile again, but you can then pull it out and it will once again pacify it. Do keep in mind if you do attack it whilst it's pacified, it will then just become aggressive. But this is actually super cool because of course if you do have this and you are walking around with this, it does mean exploration is much less daunting. On the topic of torches, also a follow-on from the last episode, we spoke about the Sentry's Torch and how it had a rather interesting interaction in one very particular cave where of course it would reveal the hidden walls. Well, it actually does have a additional use, and this ties into the lore, but Monster Juiced said Sentry's Torch reveals the cloaked assassins. The cave that has a cloaked assassin in there has a hidden boss, that is the Sage Cave. There are two bosses in there, and if you go in normally, you guys may be familiar with this, you may have encountered this already. Walk into this boss, which is the one on the right, and there is basically an invisible assassin. You technically speaking can defeat it if you could work out where it is by looking at the puddles, but normally it is invisible, it'll sneak up behind you, it'll stab you, it'll kill you. So if you take in Sentry's Torch and you wield that, it will then reveal the assassin, thus making this incredibly easy to battle. Then, in a comment from Braden Parnell, said that if you use Margit's Shackle anywhere in dungeons, it will actually activate the fire pillars, and it can also reveal hidden pathways. Again, this is sort of like a follow-on from last week, where we mentioned that one of the things that is quite useful to do, if you happen to be faced by those flame turrets in the catacombs, you can just shoot them with arrows, which makes it much safer. But this way is even easier. Margit's Shackle, of course, you can purchase from patches, but when you use this, as you can see, it will lower them or raise them in the same behavior as attacking them. And, of course, there are also hidden pathways, much like this. If you normally run down the stairs, stairs, that wall is sealed off, but you can then run down here, and that is pretty sweet. This next one from Kyle Stansberry is very cool. They said that if you have a warming stone in your quick slots and you summon a mimic tier, they will use it to heal you. Keep in mind the warming stone is an item that costs FP to drop down an AoE heal, and since the mimic tiers basically have infinite FP, it is definitely an item they can and will use. I was rather interested to sort of see how useful or how regularly they'll use it, but they definitely did throw it down pretty quickly, and then when it expired, it wasn't too long before they tried to do it again. Of course, if they do get hit, they will get interrupted, but this is a nice additional heal. Might not necessarily be the most drastic of heals, but it is pretty cool. Then in a comment from DoggerX, they actually had a ton of points here. Obviously in this video I can't go through absolutely everyone, so I picked the first one, which is a rather interesting interaction between the Omen Armor Set and the weapon, or of course the items as well. If you take the Omen Armor Set and you of course use it with the weapon that you get from the Dung Eater, and use the special weapon skill, Shriek of Milos, that will then, when you perform the strong attack afterwards, the Savage combo, that gets boosted further simply by having this armor set. It's sort of like a hidden bonus, but that is actually pretty sweet. Then moving on from there to number 8 from Wayward Wind, they said that if you use any Ash of War that has a wind effect, if you do it by fire, it will turn the wind red and add fire damage to it as well. Now, I want to include this in this video because I've done some testing and I have had mixed results with this. I think it's really cool. It kind of reminds me of, say, the wind interaction in Breath of the Wild when you do that near fire and you can use that to sort of raise yourself up. Lots of cool things like that, so I definitely want to mention it, but I will say I didn't have too much success with this. I went through testing a variety of different Ashes of War that have wind, things like Stormcaller, Storm Assault, other things like that, and I performed them either on top of bonfires, in lava, near torches, other things like that. Generally speaking, I couldn't get that behavior to proc. I did find that if I used Fire's Deadly Sin, it did actually change the color of the wind to red, which was pretty cool. And in testing, you can technically speaking say that the wind is the one that's proccing the fire. Appreciate that when you use Fire's Deadly Sin, when you are in close proximity to stuff, it does set them on fire. I feel like in this testing situation, the distance between standing and Fire's Deadly Sin is maybe a little bit smaller, so maybe the wind did expand that effect, but I will say this is one that I haven't necessarily been able to completely showcase, so if you are watching this and you can give further clarity, definitely let us know, because we can always then follow up in a future episode to show this in its entirety. This next one is super cool from Dex. They said that if you swing weapons near the edges, you will not fall. This can be used to safely traverse through invisible bridges. So of course, as you can see here, if you swing your weapon here, there is absolutely no way you are going to fall off the edge, which is pretty handy. So if you then go over to, say for example, that invisible bridge near the mountaintops of the Giants, and you then go over there, and you don't know where or how far you can go before you need to turn, you can quite simply swing your weapon and use that to safely navigate the bridge. And then finally, last comment from Glenn Wallace says you can also use Margaret's Chain to kill the Chariots. You turn your attention to this catacombs here, where of course you have the Chariots going up and down. It's one of those ones where unfortunately I didn't get the best demonstration in my recording because I used the Shackle a little bit earlier, but essentially what happens is this golden ring that appears on the ground is where one of the Chariots summons. And when you use the Shackle, it relocates that to the other area. So what basically happens when you go up the hill and around the corner is that the third one is summoned in and they all collide and they basically destroy each other, thus resulting in you getting the Ash of War and also that armor set. So, there you have it. There are a few more things that maybe you didn't know about Elden Ring. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Let us know in the comments down below which ones you did know about, which ones you didn't. And of course, if there are more things you think people should know about, share them down below. If you've missed some of our recent videos, be sure to click on one of these ones and keep it off the channel for plenty more Elden Ring.